Great. So what to know before buying a car. My name is Courtney. I'm one of the peer financial wellness coaches. We'll tell you a little bit more about who we are and what financial wellness can do for you at the end, but let's go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Thank you, Courtney. My name is Maria Ramirez. I'm also one of the peer financial coaches. I'm an MBA student graduating this semester, really excited. And I hope you get to enjoy today's presentation and you find it useful for your own car search. And so we're gonna have a few TikToks along the presentation, including this one.
Song like even yes, it's about a girl getting her driver's license, but it's bittersweet because something she and her ex always talked about. That's what I get based on hearing it for the first time right now.
Sure. I mean, if you want to get all literal, but I mean, I think I overheard on the news or something that it's actually about the kids from High School Musical. I don't know.
Oh, Zac Efron, Sharpay, that whole crew.
Oh man, High School Musical, the series. Olivia wrote it about Joshua Bassett, who's allegedly now with Sabrina Carpenter. Listen, man.
Okay.
Okay, can't possibly do a car presentation without including the most played 2020 song, Driver's License. So the agenda for today, we're going to talk about decisions and planning, some key considerations we need to take in consideration to when we're shopping for a car, new versus used cars, what's better or what to consider, financing terms that we need to be aware of, and also budgeting.
Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is some car buying decisions, and we already have another TikTok for you.
What color car should I buy? White? No. Maybe black. Nah, not black. Maybe white. Yeah. Definitely white. Yeah. 100%. I'm going with white. Actually, on second thought, maybe I'll go for gray. Yeah, gray's a little boring. Maybe I should get a color like blue. Blue, that's a color. Nah. Beige. There we go.
Sounds like me when I'm shopping for clothes. Okay, so some of the questions that you should consider are what features do you need and what things do you want? Do you need a car to get you to work every day? Do you need a car with good gas mileage? What is your budget? Find out what your price range is. Find out what you can afford. How much can you put down for a down payment? How much can you afford in monthly payments? Consider buying or leasing a car. Think about how long you want to have this car. Think about which one works better for your budget. And should I buy a new or a used car? So consider things like repair costs that you might have to spend on a used car. Consider the difference in the price of a new versus a used.
Okay, so what car should I get? Some things to consider. It's your needs. Do I need it for a long commute? It's not going to be a long commute. Do I need to, carry a lot of stuff, or a small car just enough to get me from point A and from point B is going to be enough? Also, you need to consider your wants. Do I want, and no joke, do I want a red car? Do I want this brand? Or, try to make necessarily entirely on your needs, because otherwise you're probably not going to make a decision that makes you happy at the same time. Also consider safety and reliability. It's very important to have like a car that's going to make you feel safe, and in the event of something unfortunate, it's going to protect you. And something that is reliable. A car that will stop in the middle of the freeway might not be the best option. And also consider your budget. how much money do you have to spend on the car, and how much are you willing to put on a monthly basis towards it. Another thing you do before you are buying a car, considering buying a car, is do your research, right? Go to Consumer Reports, go to cars.com, Auto Trader, Kelly Blue Book, where tools that can help you figure out what are the best prices out there. And kind of like, if this a good it's been in accidents before, it's been stolen. Doing all this research guarantee that you're gonna make a very good purchase at the end of the day.
And I want to share a little bit more about Kelly Blue Book. It's kbb.com. This one's a really good tool to see if the price of the vehicle is a good deal, if it's worth paying that much for that car. So you can actually pick the year, you can pick the model, and even down to the very specifics about that car. And it'll give you a good price range. So for this one, a typical listing is $12,000. If you find something that's less than $10,000, it's going to be a really good deal. And if it's over $12,500, it's probably too expensive. So this is also a really good talking point if you want to kind of talk down that price with the dealer as well. This is also a good resource if you want to see if you're getting a good deal for your car. If you want to sell your car, use this to find out how much it's worth.
All right, so try to figure out, how much can I afford? Can I go and take out that expensive car that worth $80,000 from the dealership, or do I need to adjust my expectations to something cheaper? So some things you can do or to take into consideration when you're figuring out how much you can afford. It's how much you have in savings, right? If you want to borrow less, you may want to save for a down payment, doing direct deposit or automatic deductions from your account or automatic transfers from your check into your savings. Whatever the method is that works for you, or putting money in your piggy bank. Whatever method is for you the best, works for you the best, to help you save for that down payment to borrow less money. The other thing is research car loans and pick the best one with the lowest interest rates for your budget. Read the terms and conditions carefully. One thing, your monthly payment as well. Make sure that your monthly payment fits within your budget. So at the end of the day, you're not, getting into more debt than what you need to cover those payments, or that you can, or to get to the point where you cannot cover them and you fail to miss the payments. And car-related expenses. So don't forget to include fees such as a car registration, insurance, gas, maintenance, parking, and tolls. So when you are making the math to see how much you can afford, these are things you might want to consider include, because most of these are on a regular basis or at least once a year.
Yeah, I think that's something we tend to overlook, is the price of gas and insurance when we're thinking about a budget and how much we can afford. Different cars have higher insurance rates and use more gas, and that affects how much you can afford for a car payment too. The next thing we're going to talk about are the advantages and disadvantages of buying a new car. Some advantages is the new car is going to be a lot more reliable than most used cars, usually at least. And then they also typically come with a manufacturer's warranty. So if something goes wrong with it in the next couple months, or sometimes the next couple years, that's covered through the manufacturer's warranty. And then customizability. So this one's more for, I think, a dream car, maybe when you get a really good job in the future and you want that awesome car with certain rims and a certain window tint, certain interior colors, certain exterior colors, navigation, no navigation, things like that. With a student budget, that might not be your priority right now, but it could be something to look forward to. Some disadvantages are new cars are very expensive because you're paying for the word new. Some used cars look really new as well, but being the sole owner of that car is actually really expensive. Being that person that puts the first 10,000 to 100,000 miles is really expensive. You also have to get full insurance coverage. So buying a new car, you're probably going to have a lot higher insurance costs. Registration, your yearly registration, has a lot to do with the year of your car, the model year of your car. So the newer the car, the higher that registration. And then it has immediate depreciation, meaning as soon as you drive that new car off the lot, you lose 15 to 20% of its value. If you buy a used car, you're not losing that much of that value. You're also not paying that extra value for that, the word new. So I think it's important to realize that buying a new car means you're paying for the new part, not necessarily just the car. I do want to mention that for the manufacturer's warranty, you can still get that with some used cars. For example, if you buy a Nissan car from a Nissan dealership, they may offer certified models where you can still get that. So while that's an advantage for a new car, you might still be able to get that with a used car.
Okay, so now we're gonna evaluate the advantages and disadvantages of a used car. On the advantages side of a used car is cheaper. Like Courtney mentioned, there are so many cars that are used and look like new. And that not necessarily buying a used car is a bad thing if you're always gonna get it cheaper. Maybe able to purchase with cash, like, depending on how much the year, the model, how much you're charging you may have enough savings for buying in cash without getting in any debt. And then he was mentioning that just first time you drive your new car, you lost 15 to 20% of your value. That doesn't happen with the used car. And so it's more likely for you to, like, if you have to sell it, new car. On the disadvantages, you may not know history. You may not know if that car was in a big accident or if it rebuilt or any of those details that you may want to know. There's usually no guarantee or it's limited or soon to expire. So even though most of the cars that you find out there are usually not under warranty, you might be able to do what Courtney was mentioning, to go directly to the dealership, certify one, and you might be able to use the guarantee. Higher maintenance costs, older cars tend to have more issues and tend to be more expensive in that sense to maintain them. And then sooner. That's another thing, depending on the mileage of the car, depending on the issues it has, you might need to replace it sooner. But hey, right now we're all broke students. I recently bought a used car and I don't regret it because I'm a broke student. I cannot afford right now more than what I pay for, and that's okay. It will get me to college, and through college to start my new life, and down the road when I'm making more money, I'm gonna buy a new one. So if it's working for now, and it's not a bad idea.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about buying a used car. So where can you get them from? New car dealerships sell used cars. There are some places that sell just a whole lot of used cars. You can buy it from a private seller. Rental car companies sell their cars as well. And then sometimes from something like an auction. The props of buying from a dealership or a well-known lot is that they're typically trustworthy. You know their name, you've probably seen their commercials. You know that you can get a trustworthy car from them, or sorry, maybe not a trustworthy car, but you know that what you're getting is trustworthy information. They're probably not going to hide very much from you. A private seller, on the other hand, can be a little scary to buy from because they might not tell you everything that you're supposed to know. I had a friend who was trying to buy a car from a private seller. And so she met up with him and she got in the car. She looked around it, she sat in it, and she liked it. And she was just about to buy it. And then she looked up at the roof and the whole top was like basically missing. It was horrifying, she said. And I guess the guy just assumed she would see it. Maybe, I don't know. He didn't warn her, never showed her pictures of it before she met up with him. But I think it's just important to remember to be a little more vigilant. So some things to do before buying a used car is ask for the repair history. Get the VIN number and run the vehicle history report. You can use something like Carfax. When you're buying it from a private party, you can get it checked out by a mechanic before you buy the car. Most people should let you do that. That's an actual thing. And then, like I said before, sometimes some cars will be certified through dealerships. Most dealerships will go ahead and tell you the repair history up front. You don't have to really press them hard to get that. And then the thing about buying a certified car from a dealership is, for example, my sister bought a car from a dealership that's certified, and she had it was over $1,000 for this repair, but it was covered with that certification. So she actually didn't have to pay anything for that repair. Whereas if she had bought that car from a private seller or a used car lot, that wouldn't have been covered. So that's just a little tip to look for. Then we'll keep going.
Okay, let's talk about leasing a car. Basically, a lease is that you are renting the car for a long term. Eventually you can own it, but you're pretty much renting it. So advantage of this is that you get a new car every few years. So once your lease is up, they will probably offer you to upgrade the car, and that way you can have like the newer model or another car you want to try with that same dealership. It may be able to get lower monthly payment than with the loan, but at the end of the day, you're not going to own entirely that car. You still have to you still owe it for a longer period of time to the leasing agency. And then the low upfront costs are also an advantage of it. You're not going to have a lot of like the fees that we're going to talk about in the next few slides. Some of the disadvantages, the vehicle does not belong to you. I already mentioned that. So it doesn't become an asset to you. You're always going to owe it to the person or the entity who's leasing you the car. It's hard to get out of the contract. There's so many small letters in that contract that it's really hard to break the contract. And then you ended up paying extra fees if you exceed the mileage, or if the condition of the car is poor, you also have to pay for that.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about financing those cars. Something that is really important for that is your credit score. This affects your ability to actually get an auto loan, and it determines the interest rate that you're charged. For example, the most common FICO score is 695. Later, we're going to talk a little bit more about the types of interest rates that you can get with your credit score. So you can kind of possibly see what it can get you. Just a little warning on the credit score, it's not the only thing that's going to determine whether you get approved for an auto loan and your interest rate. Sometimes you can have really good credit and not enough history. Sometimes you can have really good credit and not enough income. So this is just one part of getting approved for an auto loan.
What's my final score?
6.
How many do I need to pass?
6. Good.
Well,
All right, so what if my credit score is low? And so some things you can do to improve your score. So if you're getting ready to buy a car, some things you can do to improve your score are always paying on time. That's the biggest portion and the big key of keeping a good credit score. Always, always, always pay your bills, your debt, anything you have on time. Paying down the existing debt so you don't appear like you're over in a big debt. That can lower your chances to get approved in your auto loan. Avoid new debt in the period prior to the purchase of the car or requesting a loan for an auto loan. Pay collection accounts and keep all accounts. So why do we need to keep old accounts? Keeping old accounts show for how long you have had credit. And so if you've been consistently a good payer for a long time, you may be able to be in a better spot to negotiate a better interest rate or a better conditions of the loan. So and lowering down your debt can get you to that to a good spot for an auto loan. So if you have your score is low and you really need a car, and so one thing you can do is to get a cosigner. So some of the things is that if you miss the payment, they are responsible to make up for these missed payments, and they will also get punished on their credit score. So a lot of people don't like to do that. But if you need that, if you need a cosigner, maybe you can get somebody close to you, like a close friend or family, have them co-sign the loan for you and promise them you're going to be responsible, you know, that you're going to be paying on time, so they can trust you, and build that relationship is also important, and it's going to benefit you in the long run.
Okay, so what happens to my credit when I buy a car? When applying for car or auto loans, dealerships or financial institutions make a hard inquiry or a hard pull for your credit report. So that means that those inquiries show up on your credit report and they actually lower your score. However, if you're going around rate shopping and you go to multiple dealerships to see if you can get a better deal at each, you also apply to a couple different financial institutions. All of those inquiries can actually just show up as one hard inquiry. As long as all of those inquiries happened about 30 days together, then usually it shows up as just one inquiry. So that means while an inquiry negatively affects your credit score, rate shopping and getting different people to pull your credit to give you different rates in a short amount of time doesn't hurt your credit score that much. So the other hand, when it would affect your credit score a lot is if you apply for a car loan every month, like January, February, March, April, May, those aren't going to show up as one. So when you're ready to buy a car, do all of your applications at one or close to one time.
Okay, so some financing terms you may want to be familiar with before you decided to buy a car, before you are going to be in front of a contract or out a loan, are the following ones. For example, the amount finance, right? So if you, let's set an example, if you're gonna buy a car that costs $5,000 and you put that down payment of 1,000, then your amount finance is gonna be the 4,000 that you couldn't cover with your down payment. So how much do I need to cover the difference between the price of the car and my down payment? That's the amount financed. The APR, it's the annual percentage rate, which is simple as the interest rate. So how much is going to cost me to borrow that money to buy that car? The finance charges. If there's a loan generation fee, or if it's like a late payment fee, or any other fees that are there that could be a little hidden, try to read the fine print of your terms to find out what those finance charges are. The payment amount and number of payments, how much I'm going to be paying per month, and for how long I'm going to be paying these payments. And then whether if they're not of any penalties like I mentioned for front. If I want to do a bigger payment this month, or I want to put some extra money towards my amount finance, am I going to get penalized for that? And so those things are things you want to understand before you sign any finance document or any auto loan. All right, so some of the financing sources. So there are different entities where you can go and get a credit for your auto loan. Some of them are directly with the dealerships. They often offer promotional interest rates on certain models, or sometimes they offer you a period of time with 0% interest, and after that, you start paying interest after a certain period of time. And so you may want to consider that as an option if that's the best case, if you get a good deal. But there's also some other entities that you can go to. Another option is the credit unions or banks. They usually offer flexibility that can be used at any dealership. So, you can take a loan and a certain credit union or bank, and you can buy the car wherever. It could be even a used car lot or from a private seller. You're not tied to a specific dealership. And then the third option is the finance company. This is a prime loan, may come with extremely high interest rates. They're less robust than a financial institution like a bank or credit union. So their conditions may not be the best. But like we said, shop around, do your research. And if you're familiar with the terms that we explained before, you're going to be able to make a better informed decision.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about something you may have seen on a commercial before, 0% financing. So 0% APR means that you're not paying any interest, right? They're not charging you any interest because your rate is nothing. This is usually only on new cars. I've never seen it in a case where it's used cars. And usually the goal of this from dealerships is to get you to buy a new car. However, it's not always the best deal. Not paying interest is a really good deal if you have to finance, but sometimes it's not the best deal. Sometimes they offer rebates like $3,000 cash back on this new car, but you don't get to get both. You can't do both of their deals. Usually it's only one deal. And sometimes your interest rate might be pretty low already, and $3,000 rebate might be better in the long run or better overall than the 0% financing. So don't just assume that's the best deal. if you're in a situation where you're offered that or a rebate, definitely be prepared to do the math to see which one's going to give you a better deal. Also with 0% financing, the length of the loan might be shorter. So you might actually have a lot higher monthly payments than if it was given with your usual APR percentage rate. So higher monthly payments are a little bit scary because while saving some money on interest is good, you don't want to get yourself into financial trouble over that. You don't want to choose that just because of the 0% interest rate and not consider whether or not you can afford those monthly payments. So just something to be aware of. And this is usually only available to people who have a really, really good credit score. So just set your expectations on that. You might not qualify, so don't get your heart set on a car that you saw in the commercial for 0% APR. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what kind of rates you can expect with certain credit scores. Just a warning, these fluctuate a ton, especially with the current state of the economy. So I actually pulled these like 2 weeks ago, not sure if they're the same today. So the APR is basically the interest rate that you're going to get charged on the car. And it's mostly based on credit. Like I said earlier, it's not the only indicator. If you don't have a lot of history, that might change things for you. If you have not a lot of income, that might change things for you as well. So I think I said that the average FICO score was 695. So the average APR for that would be about 4.21 for a new or 6.05 for a used. And as you're probably noticing, they usually offer lower interest rates for new cars than used cars because they want you to buy the new car. And then another thing that might be concerning to you right now is that you don't have a lot of credit. You might have a pretty low credit score right now, no credit, but sometimes you might need to buy a car even in that situation. So kind of start thinking about the future. If that's you, you really have to buy a car, you don't have an option, and you don't have the best credit or enough credit history, then you might be charged with a higher interest rate. But even if you're charged with the highest interest rate now, doesn't mean that you can't pay more on your loan. Paying more on your loan sometimes means that you're going to be paying less interest overall because you're paying it off quicker. If you can't do that, then maybe you can refinance your auto loan a couple years from now. Making those on-time auto loan payments is going to help your score, and your credit's going to improve over the next couple years. So maybe a few years down the road, if you still have a lot that you owe on that car, consider refinancing. So maybe you can save some interest on the last half of your auto loan. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind too, if you're ever in a situation where you have to buy a car with a super high interest rate. And then another thing I wanted to show is the car payment calculator. So this comes from carpaymentcalculator.net. If you Google car payment calculator, there's a ton of options. We'll have a handout at the end of this presentation, so we'll give you a copy with the links that we're talking about today too. But for this calculator, I did the car that we looked at earlier from Kelley Blue Book. It was like a Honda Civic. So it was about $12,000. So let's say I bought that car. Let's say I had a $1,000 down payment. I've included the sales tax. Don't forget about the sales tax. That's a lot of money too. I'm going to do a 6-year loan and my interest rate is 6%. So if you can estimate those numbers, you can put them into a car payment calculator to give you an estimate of how much your monthly payments will be. In this case, my monthly payment would be $196. My total interest that I'm going to pay over time would be $2,300. And then overall, my $12,000 car is going to cost $15,163. This is kind of a good way to show you how that purchase sticker price isn't the actual price that you're going to pay for that car. Even if you talk them down, it's still going to be higher than what it looks like on paper sometimes. That 196 is a good number to see if it fits into my monthly budget. So I'll make a monthly budget, see if I have $200 a month to spend on a car payment. And this will give me a good idea if I can actually afford that car or not.
Okay, so a few tips to get the best price when you're negotiating. And negotiating a car price is very, very common. So don't be afraid of putting yourself out there and try to get the best price for you. So one of the tips is don't reveal too much. If your budget is $15,000, and you're negotiating, don't reveal your max price. Try to get it down to even lower than your max budget is, so you can get the best price. Do your homework, as we talked about. Do your research beforehand, to shop around and compare and make an informed decision. Don't let the salesperson talk you into getting extras you don't need. Getting extras add up to the price of the car, and it can get it to the point that it's out of our budget, or we may not need to have those rims or the some extra cameras and some extra fancy features in the car, because right now all we need is to get from point A to point B. Avoid being over enthusiastic. If you're thinking that you're very close to deal the best price you can possibly get, don't be so enthusiastic. Don't show that you did it. Also search around, like we talked about. It's kind of tied to do your homework. Just don't go to one place and make the decisions right there. Try to go to multiple places, multiple dealerships, multiple lenders, and search around. And go at the right time. And some of you may think, like, go at the right time. There's an urban legend that you can save money by going to the dealership right before closing time, and they'll make you a great deal so you can so they can quickly go home for the evening. Well, that's more fiction than a fact. There are sometimes that are better to shop a car than others, and so some car dealerships, like other businesses, they have monthly, quarterly, and annual sales goals for the both salespersons. So if you find that when that they haven't met their goals, you might get a better deal. Or when there's like promotions and stuff. So go at the right time might matter if you're gonna get the best price or not.
So selling your old car, some things that you might want to consider if you have a car now and you are thinking about a new car. Sometimes you can trade in your old car, and that can be a down payment for your new car. You might also want to consider selling it yourself rather than trading it into a dealership. You can usually get more money that way, but it's a little bit harder. It requires a lot more paperwork. You're probably going to want to clean that car really good. And then you have to do the sales work yourself, right? You have to show it to the people that are interested in it. So selling your old car, those are just some things that you might want to consider.
Okay, here are some resources about legal rights that you can use in your favor when buying a car. One of them is the Truth in Lending Act. So lenders must clearly disclose terms of borrowing. So they clearly need to disclose to you the interest rate, the fees, the conditions, everything. The other one is the Consumer Leasing Act. So also the lender or the leaser, whoever is leasing you the car, must clearly disclose the terms of the leasing. What are the penalty fees? What is going to be the monthly payment? Is there any other conditions that I should be aware of? These two, the lender always have to disclose of this information to you. And the third one is the lemon law. which is going to protect you against people that are trying to sell your car in a condition that is not exactly the best condition. And so, for example, if you buy a car and half of the motor is just like broke, you can, and they didn't disclose that to you, you can use the lemon law in your favor. There's also another example that happened a few years ago with the hurricanes in the East Coast. They were bringing cars to California and sell it without disclosing that they were water damage. And so the buyers of those cars were protected by the lemon law. So this usually only applies to new cars, but it can also apply to a used one.
Hey, I just wanted to share this is a resource. I can't answer any questions that you might have about these, but I just wanted to share them. So if you're interested in going green and getting an electric car, definitely check out these sites, the cleanvehiclerebate.org and the cleanvehiclesgrant.org. You might find some helpful things that can help you afford an electric car. So that's the end of our presentation. So a little bit more about financial wellness. We have workshops all year long through Zoom currently, like budgeting, loans, savings, investing, credit, car buying workshops. And then we also have fun events when we're on campus, like painting a piggy bank or dropping by for a donut. We also do one-on-one coaching sessions. These you can come and meet with a peer coach to talk about any money management topic, any financial topic that you might have, whether it's making a budget, making a plan to pay for school, maybe it's just a question about credit or something like that. You can actually schedule an appointment with us through our website. So if you go to the Sac State website and search for financial wellness, that's the easiest way to find us. If you ever have a quick question, you can always email us, greentogold@csus.edu. We're also hiring. So if you are interested in working for financial wellness, or you know someone that might be interested, tell them to send us an email, or you can send us an email and we'll help you get to the job listing. If you're on Instagram or Twitter, be sure to follow us. Our Instagram is a great place to find out about upcoming events and workshops as well. And if you're here for Leadership Initiative, I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the chat. And I'm going to stop the recording.